Hey guys, what is going on, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm back at the track. Despite my previous clutch issues, they're only open for about another week. The air is cold, so I figured why not come try to give it another go. But I've been driving it around on the street. It feels all right. Driving it every day, you know, I don't notice any slipping. The smell pretty much went away. I think the car was just kind of soaked with the smell because it was slipping so badly last time I was here. Let's see if we can replicate that 10.8, or at least come close. I mean, if I could do a run without the clutch slipping, that alone I'll be happy with. So run number 2, going against the Charger Hellcat. Crazy. I'm just going to kind of come off a low RPM like I've been doing previously. It just spins too much. If I just dump it. It's hard to go in. I mean, the first run I completely missed fourth altogether. But I'm trying to focus on my shifting. And not just, you know, give it everything out of the gate this time. I'm going to try to flutter it a little bit. Alright guys, so there we go. Another successful day at the track. Times weren't that great, but the car did make it back, with the exception of an issue I'm having with the axle. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Right now I got the time slips laid out. Let's go through them and see how she did. Alright, so I only made 3 runs because my axle started making a little noise. And it was just feeling really weird, so I didn't want to continue making runs with it. I'll get to that in a second, but here are the 3 runs that I made. First run here, you saw when I missed 4th, that was an 11.8 at 119. 60 foot wasn't bad, it was a 1.94. Not my best, but definitely not my worst. Second run was a little bit better, though there was a lot of slip. I was having a lot of problems with traction this time. I think just because the weather cooled down a lot. It was in the 40s when I was taking these runs. A few weeks ago when I made that 10.8 run, and it was a little warmer. It was like in the 60s. With that run, I rolled into it just a tiny bit as I slipped the clutch. And then I gave it everything in first gear, and it hooked without a problem. Today, I couldn't do that. As soon as my foot went to the floor, the thing was just spinning like crazy, and I had to get out of it. So yeah, traction was definitely a problem. But this run, second one, I did an 11.3 at 132. 60 foot really wasn't that bad at all. That was a 1.8. And then my final run was another 11.3 at 132. And that was all I did. Then I started noticing, if you guys remember my last video, when the clutch was slipping, coming off the line out of the burnouts, the right rear started making some noise. And I thought it was the clutch at first, but the way it felt taking off kind of felt a little like wobbly, like coming off the line. And then I later realized that the right rear axle seal was leaking. Now, when I got back from the track last time, I did notice that it was leaking as well. There was a little bit of fluid inside the wheel. It really wasn't a lot. It wasn't dripping down onto the tire. It was just kind of flung around inside the rim. I got home, I wiped it off, checked out the brakes. It wasn't like dripping really, really bad or anything. So I figured maybe the seal just got a little messed up when I put it in. I could just order another seal and be good to go. So I had it all cleaned up, brought it back out this time to see what it's gonna do. And driving there, everything was fine, you know, no leaks. I got there, inside the wheel was dry, no problems at all. And then when I started making the runs is when it started leaking a little bit. And I noticed that maybe one side was grabbing more than the other. It was acting a little bit weird. And it was making that noise as I pulled out of the burnout. When I got home, I pulled the wheels off. I just cleaned the diff fluid off of everything. And I noticed that the right rear, the axle has a little bit of in and out play opposed to the driver's side. The driver's side is completely tight. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but there's a little bit of movement. And you can kind of hear it's making a little clunking noise. Come over to the driver's side, and it's completely tight. There's absolutely no in and out movement at all. But for some reason on the passenger side, it does have a little bit, a tiny little bit of a clunk if you pull the wheel in and out. Now, first thing I was thinking before I even pulled it apart was that the 4 retainer bolts for the axle came loose, because just looking at an LS1 Tech, apparently that's a common problem with this rear end, just because of the side load and it doesn't have C-clips. A lot of guys have had those bolts come loose. 100%, I thought that was the problem. Like, okay, the bolts probably came loose. I got to go get some lock nuts, because the kit they give you, they just give you these little 11 millimeter bolts. They don't have any Loctite. They're not locking nuts or anything. So I figured I'll go get some different nuts, and for now I'll tighten them up. We'll be good. Maybe change the seal. But when I just checked it out, all the bolts were tight. Everything looked fine. I tightened them down a little bit more, but they definitely did not come loose. And by the looks of it, that right rear axle, if I just look where the seal's riding, it looks like it's just like a hair further out than the driver's side. I mean, I pressed the bearings and, you know, the retainer rings on myself, so maybe I didn't have it down all the way. That could be on me. I don't really know. I already looked on Strange's website. It's $35 for a bearing kit per side. So you get the little, the lock ring, the bearing, and the seal. So I'm probably going to order a pair of those just to be safe. I'm going to pull the axle out of that side, you know, cut the bearing off, maybe bring it to a shop. My press is a little like 12-ton Harbor Freight press. Maybe get something with a little more muscle to make sure that thing's down all the way. And I'll take it out for a spin, see how it does. But just having it in the air, it seems all right. You know, the posi is holding in the air. It's not like the diff is like completely blown. I think the noise may have just been the axle kind of pulling out and pulling against the, pushing against the brake pads. Because I had that happen with the 10 bolt. My C-clips, for some reason, they became concave. I don't know, it's just because from beating on the thing or from running the wider tires. But they had like a bowl shape to them. And the axle had a real good amount of slop in and out. And when I would make turns, you would hear like, woo, woo, woo. The right rear would just start making this weird ass noise as the axle is pulling against the brakes. And that's the exact same noise I was hearing when I was pulling out of the hole while doing the burnout. So I had to change the fluid in the diff anyway. It's been past 500 miles, so I'm gonna drain the fluid, change it while I have it out. I'm gonna pull the axle, fix the bearings on that side, get it back together, pick up some lock nuts for the retainer brackets, and we'll see where it goes from there. Also, as for the clutch, I had absolutely no problems with it. It held up perfectly fine. You know, maybe just that 110.8 run, it was just too much for it. And then coming back on the track like a half hour later, it was still too hot and it was slipping. You know, as I start to perfect the launch on this thing and get better at it and get deeper into the 10s, I do feel like that clutch isn't going to hold on. I mean, all the 11 runs, it's been fine. But just that one hiccup that it had that time, I don't trust it. So I'm definitely going to go change that out. And I did confirm that I do have an RST clutch in there. I was able to find the receipt from Summit. So I got the cheaper RST. I think it's rated at like 800 horsepower or something. So I figured that's going to be enough. And there's really no reason why it should be slipping. I mean, aside from me driving it on the street most of the time, that may just wore it down a little faster than usual. But I'm definitely going to stick with the McLeod. I'm going to go with the RXT. While the trans is out, I might throw a scatter shield in it. I'm not 100% yet. It would definitely be a good thing to do. I'm going to leave the trans alone. I'm not going to touch it. It's still completely stock. Later on down the line, I'm going to pull it and do some kind of rebuild, either send it out to get rebuilt or just get a kit myself, a service manual, and see if I could do it. It is getting cold outside, so plans coming up. I want to get that axle taken care of and make sure that's not going to be a problem. And then in the spring, I'm definitely going to start getting into autocross with this thing, because that's kind of you know, my sole purpose when I put this car together. I wanted it to be able to handle. The drag racing is just kind of a little extra fun I'm having. You know, it is a stick shift car. The times aren't going to be as great. I'm trying to get it to do everything. As you can tell, obviously it's not going to be 100% at one thing, but it's fun to try to you know, see what it can do in different kinds of racing. That's why I do want to get into autocross. I do want to continue with the drag racing, but obviously before I do that, I am going to have to replace the clutch, get the rear end sorted out, and I definitely do need a torque arm, because that factory stamped steel one is not going to cut it for much longer. But I just remembered, regarding the clutch, I'm actually not going to just go buy an entire new clutch. One of you guys left a comment saying that I could just have my flywheel resurfaced and just pick up a couple of RXT discs. So I called up McLeod. They actually said I can send them the entire clutch kit, flywheel, discs, pressure plate, everything, and they'll convert it to an RXT kit. So they'll resurface the flywheel, they'll resurface the pressure plate, and redo my RST discs with the RXT, I think it's like that copper ceramic material. And that's only going to cost me 540 bucks. I mean, an entire RXT kit brand new with the flywheel is like $1,000 bucks. So literally half the price, and I'll have an RXT. Future videos coming up. I am going to be eventually getting to that axle. And I figure I'm going to do some fun, kind of simple stuff, because it is getting cold out. So working outside, I don't really have a place to make as detailed videos as I usually do. I'll just freeze my ass off outside. I figured maybe I'll do a couple of fun videos, you know, the typical YouTube, you know, 10 things I like about the car, 5 things I hate about the car, stuff like that. I think I'm gonna run through. It ought to be fun to give you guys a take on what actually really bugs the shit out of me in this car, and the stuff that I actually love about it when I put it together building it. So that'll be a fun thing to touch on. I might do a video, you know, addressing my transmission. I get a lot of messages of people saying, would I ever auto swap the car? What I think it would do if it was an automatic, you know, at the drag strip. So I have thought about it. So I'll definitely make a video regarding that and what I think about possibly making this car an automatic. If you don't follow me on Instagram, link is going to be in the description. I'm always posting pictures when I'm at the track, little updates when the next video is coming out. But for now, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.